Good morning, beautiful people of the Center for Spiritual Living. As you heard in the announcements, we have a new focus this month. Each month we change our focus. This month's focus is sowing seeds of growth. In particular, we are looking at the spiritual laws that govern the universe as they relate to growing into our greater yet to be. Some people call that manifesting. And in chapter 6 of A New Design for Living, the book that we are using to guide ourselves through this study, here's how the law of correspondence is described. There is something which brings about conditions and situations that correspond to our mental attitude. So that is what we're looking at, how our mental attitude invokes something. Let's call it the law or a principle of spirituality that brings things around to match that mental attitude. And in the book, the authors remind us that when we are going about the business of redesigning our life or growing into our greater yet to be, we're to approach it as if it's a experiment. In other words, not to make it a labor, something difficult, or to overthink it. It should feel natural and joyful. And at the same time, we are not to oversimplify the whole process of working in mind and spiritual laws so that it becomes something silly. By silly, I mean, saying or praying or affirming something that your intellect argues with. For example, the idea that if I just sit around and think about something clearly, then I'll get it. Or the idea that to get something in life, you just have to want it enough. I watch Saturday Night Live. I love it because they poke fun at everybody, all genders, religions, political parties, and I enjoy that. And 4 years ago, there was this parody with Amy Pollard and Tina Fey when they were acting as Hillary Clinton and Sarah Palin. Did any of you see that? Oh my goodness, it was hilarious. And there comes this point where Sarah Palin says, anybody can become the president of the United States. All you have to do is want it enough. At which point, Hillary Clinton flinches, clearly, and she says, if I could go back and do it all over again, the one thing I would change is I would just want it more. Which is the irony, because clearly she wanted it very much. And it is a reminder for us to take in the reality of our world, which is this, that many, many people want many, many things with clarity and conviction and deep feeling, and they don't get them. Look, when you're growing into your greater yet to be and you're praying for what you want, there are certain things that contribute to your success. Wanting it is important. Knowing what it is you want contributes to clarity. Having the discipline to stay with it, concentrate on certainly, and then taking the steps to pursue it, those are all important factors. And yet, if it were as easy as that, this world would be filled up with millionaires and mansions. And there is no one on this planet who wants a house overlooking the ocean more than I do. Unless it's you. So we're looking at that without abandoning, identifying what it is we want for our greater yet to be, and without abandoning the imaginative work, the creativity we are to pour into it, and without abandoning the practice of meditating, we nevertheless have to go deeper and further than this. Because spirituality and living a spiritual life can't only be about teaching people how to want things more, or even how to want them more clearly. I think there's more to it. I think Spirituality is about becoming familiar with the whole heart and soul of our being, and to take in the big picture of how what we are going for relates to everyone and everything, and to examine and discover what is it that is causing me to want and ought how to follow it. It is about learning how to sort through influences and drives, and above all, to know ourselves and to think clearly from that knowing when we choose our direction. Because without all of that contributing, it is possible for me to identify a direction to pursue that works against me, to my frustration. Especially if, for example, it is based on a wrong belief. I'll give you an example of a wrong belief. If I believe that my worth is based on how much I earn, or that for me to be okay, I have to look a certain way, or that my value comes if and when I have a relationship, then based on that, I can choose a direction, and I can say I'm working to manifest everything that goes with that, all the while abandoning the heart and soul of what makes me valuable in the first place. In the book of the month, The Laws of Manifestation, the author David Spangler tells about his desk in his office, where he has a little desk ornament of Mickey Mouse in the form of the cartooned Sorcerer's Apprentice as he appears in the movie Fantasia. Have you seen that? And there's this moment where Mickey Mouse, with delusions of grandeur and power, is standing on the top of a mountain, attempting to control the elements and the forces, trying to bend them to his will. But because he does not know what he is doing, he just causes chaos. And the lesson in that, I suppose, is that he messed with manifestation before he had the consciousness and depth to do so. Before he had the maturity to wield it for a more noble purpose. Before he had the self-awareness to do it for anything else other than self-satisfaction. I've been reading Mahatma Gandhi's writings in a publication called Young India, in which he addresses certain important questions of the time. And the particular question I've been reading about is the question, who should be allowed to study the scriptures? It's a question that's hotly debated. Should it be open to everybody? And Mahatma Gandhi's response is, yes, anybody should be able to and can study the scriptures, but there's a caveat. The sincerity of the student. Because studying the scriptures and accessing the power of the spiritual laws that govern the universe presupposes certain conditions in the student. Right conduct, nonviolence, meditation practice, compassionate heart, non-stealing, selfless service, sharing, trustworthiness, honor, kindness. Why? Well, because the scriptures are true enough as they are, but in the hands of somebody who is asleep, or in the hands of somebody who is unteachable, or in the hands of somebody who is not willing to grow and change, in the hands of somebody who is selfish or vengeful, well, then the chaos of the sorcerer's apprentice awaits them. I will give you an example of what I mean. Imagine that beautiful and true statement that comes from the Bible. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Or, as we may say in this tradition, the same thing is, the universe withholds nothing from you. Or even a more popular way of saying it, you can have it all. All of it is true enough, but in the hands of someone who has not yet learned how to value and respect nature and this planet and our environment and the animal kingdom. Or what about this example? Consider the beautiful and true statement that we find in the Bible. I am that I am. Or as Jesus of Nazareth said it, I and the Father are one. Or as we might say it in our own tradition, I am God expressing. It's true enough. And yet in the hands of someone who has not yet learned to value life, or who has not yet come to understand that they are more than their personality, or their troubles, or their desires. So when it comes to manifestation, there are certain guidelines to work with to bring me to a point of successfully navigating through it. So I've come up with 3 of my own. You probably have yours. And here's the first guideline. Put God first. Now, I'm not talking about that God idea of a being somewhere else with regional interests and alliances and strict rules. No, I'm talking about that one indivisible, self-existent cause that is in and through all creation, that connects us to each other and to everything. I'm talking about the shining self of the Upanishads, or the oversoul of Emerson, or consciousness of Troward, or the thing itself of Ernest Holmes. And if I do not yet know anything about that, it's too soon for me to start making things happen. Because from the view of the personality, everything is regional and local. My party wins. Everything is about quantity and possession and needs and accomplishment. But from the oversoul's perspective, everything is global. If one of us loses, all of us lose. And then it becomes about quality of being and experience, and connection and satisfaction comes from a different place. That's why it says in the scriptures of India, attain that awareness. It means discover what God is and let that be your focus. What is my relationship to it? Because that attention, it has a tendency to straighten things out. Study God to understand what you really want. So the first one, what was it? Put God first. The second one is to practice devotion. In other words of saying that, serve God as it appears in the people and things around you. In other words, become a devotee of the thing itself. Or in other words, become a servant of the Lord. Or in other words, become a custodian of life. Or in other words, become a channel for peace. Or become a vehicle for compassion. Or become an advocate for goodness and unity. And if I haven't yet developed a taste for loving and serving creation and people, I recommend thinking of that as the learner's permit, and to practice it. Get some practice. How? For example, meditate on St. Francis' prayer for peace. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Meditate on that every day and watch how that develops and shapes your desires, sets your directions, changes your choices, and develops and evolves your habits. Devotion, selfless service. It has a way of bringing things into perspective while at the same time manifesting joy and meaning and connection in the ways that really matter to us. The first one was what? And the second? Put God first, practice devotion. And the third, practice listening to the silent wisdom of consciousness of the one that is all around us and in us. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, on page 550 of The Science of Mind, the book that we use in all of our classes, he writes this poignant prayer. And he is not addressing a God somewhere off in a distant place, but he is speaking into the consciousness of the universal mind. And he says, "Make me to do your will, and from your wisdom teach me the ways of truth. Compel me to follow you, and let me not pursue the paths of my own counsel." See, manifesting without listening, why, that's like driving without my glasses on. I might get there. See, listening to the paths of my own counsel, then I listen and I hear my personality. And it says, I want, I am, I know, I declare, I need, I. And I might choose a wrong direction based on that counsel. When I first got to the United States, I left behind in my country one of my favorite cars, a little sports car called a Fiat X19. Has anyone ever seen one of those? Tiny little convertible with a Targa top. I don't think they even make them anymore. And I loved that car so much. And so I missed it when I got to the United States. I missed it so bad, and I knew I needed to have it for me to be complete. And so, I very soon learned the ways of manifesting, and I was taught how to cut out the pictures and do the treasure map and, the image board or whatever it's called. And very soon I manifested my Fiat X19 and all of the trouble that goes with owning one. I remember going to a very important interview in Los Angeles, stopping at the traffic light, and the engine fell out. It literally fell onto the floor. So there I was. I thought to myself, I am a very good and frustrated manifester. You might be sitting there and thinking, well, what does this mean? Does this mean that we should not pray for the things we want? Well, to get to the mature answer to that question, we have to approach it from many sides. It's not yes, it's not no, it's not even all of it. It requires adjustments and moving towards it. For example, instead of praying to manifest X, pray instead for the mental attitude that corresponds to the life, the kind of life in which X is used for the highest good of all. There's another adjustment. Don't pray for anything at all. There's adjustment. Take the word for, adjust it, replace it with about. Now you say, I'm praying about a new job. I'm praying about relationship. Further adjustment, more specifically, I'm praying about the consciousness of a new job. You see, because to us, prayer is not asking for anything to be delivered. Prayer is more like a meditation. Meditation on what? Not on the object, not on the job, not on the relationship, not on the healing, but on becoming the person to whom that object experience is normal. To us, prayer is a movement in consciousness, not a pleading. Now, when it comes to manifestation, all of the teachers say similar things. They say, for example, that clarity is important. Certainly, you must know what it is you're going for, else how will you know when you get there? They say you've got to be able to have a clear image, mental image of the outcome. Absolutely, I can see that's true. They say you must be able to embody the feeling of already possessing it. I get that, yes. And now we're adding something more. We're saying that holding mental images by themselves is just not enough. For example, I went to a favorite restaurant the other day, and on the way there, I was already so hungry that I could imagine in my mind what I wanted to eat, the falafel wrap. And I could already taste it because I've eaten it so many times. I just absolutely love it, and the sauce and the way they arrange it, and the little slice of orange, just right on. So by the time I sat down, I wanted it, and I had a clear image, and then I made the mistake of opening the menu, and as I did, my hunger caused me to want everything else that was on the menu. I could taste them all, and I couldn't have wanted it more than I did, and yet nothing appeared in front of me. Eventually, I was going to have to select something and then order it. And then the miracle of our interconnectedness and interdependence starts to move, comes into play, and we feel our oneness with everything. And the way he says it is so beautiful. And he says, nothing comes to us without the participation of others. And I would add to that, nothing comes to us without our interaction with the whole of creation. And he says, in other words, relationship with others is as important to the process as clarity of thought and ability to visualize is. That's the key. If you want a key for today, that's the one. Your spiritual growth in the direction of what you want to manifest, your greater yet to be, your heart's desire. Let your number one priority not be the destination, but your relationship with others. And watch how that manifests good in your life. After all, putting others first is just another way of putting God first. Putting others first and serving them is just another way of practicing devotion. Listening to others is just another way of listening deeply and generously, like you listen to the universe. He quotes a beautiful example in this book about a man who everybody understands is an excellent manifester. He puts his mind to something and it comes about. But the problem is he breaks rules. He's not a good role model because he's pessimist, always thinking it's not going to happen, always complaining that it hasn't happened yet. So everything that goes against the teachings of manifestation. But when it comes to his relationship with other people, he is open-heartedly generous with them, interested in their success, kind and loyal to them. That seems to be the ingredient that carries us beyond our doubts and worries. So we're getting a map here, I think. Put God first. What's the next one? Practice devotion. Listen. And then put others first. Now you've got a whole week to practice. Because next week what I'm going to do is I'm going to explore with you the 3 conditions that we are to nurture when we are looking to grow into our greater yet to be, our heart's desire. Lots of fun. I hope I'll see you here next week. I am Edward Fillion, and I am very pleased to be here to speak to you this morning, and a special welcome to our guests this morning. You have come on an auspicious morning to our service. Those people who attend regularly are expecting this announcement because once a year we take a little moment out of our service to conduct an inventory of our plans to financially support the center next year in the calendar year 2013. And We also have annually what are they called? Community forums, where we invite people who are regular givers to come together earlier on in the year and to tell us how are we doing with this whole thing. And so we did that last year and we did it this year again. And what we learned is that you, the congregation, like your information about the giving intention program. You like it early, and you like concise and frank presentations on Sunday. Yeah, I got a lot of thumbs up over there. All right. So here is your concise and frank presentation. Last year, when we conducted our giving intentions survey, we received our giving intention forms faster than in any other year of our whole existence. So you give yourselves a round of applause for that one. And we seem to be carrying on in that direction because although we're only starting with formal announcements today, we've already received almost 100 cards in the mail. So that looks really good. So we really could finish this whole thing off plenty soon. Hey, look, if I get all 1,200 cards next week, I'll just stop talking. I wouldn't count on that. Well, we also learned that you do enjoy your information early, and that's why we mailed out a 4-page mailer that describes our renovation plan for our facility, our nonprofit partners for 2013, and all of the planning for the topics and themes for 2013. Now, if you didn't get that, you're not on the mailing list, you can pick one up today at the Giving Intention table. Also, we have again this year produced a calendar, and conveniently on the back of the calendar are all of the topics and themes for 2013. So when you open it, not only do you get a photograph of one of the artists from our community, but also the affirmation for that month. So it's a way to literally stay on the same page with your community. Next week, what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about the nonprofit programs and how it is that we get to select them and what the purpose of our program is. Importantly, last year when I talked to you, I said the value of a giving intention, and you know, a good way to describe it is it's a survey, because what we're doing is those of us who are already contributing, we know how much we're contributing, so we disclose it, saying whether it's going up or down. And then we gather the information of that survey, and that becomes the strength of our lendability to the lending institutions that are looking at us right now to see whether or not they want to partner with us in refinancing our building. So we did very well last year. We look to do as well or better this year. The second part of our strength is the follow-through. They want to see that the people who say, yeah, we're stakeholders in this community, I'm giving X amount of dollars, and do they follow through with that? When they do, they call it the fulfillment rate or ratio, and that increases our viability as a customer. So what it does, it really brings this into a collaborative process. This is the community as its members, not the community and its members. We're in this together. Now, I hear from people sometimes, they say, well, you know, the little bit I give, it doesn't really count, so I'm not going to bother to fill out an intention form. Well, you couldn't be more wrong. Every person who fills in a card contributes to the strength in the eyes of the lending institution of this community. So whatever it is you're giving, if you know what you're already giving, I invite you to write it down to let us know. Again, as we did last year, we have arranged a gratitude event. So every person who fills in and turns in a gratitude form will be given a ticket for them to attend our gratitude event. And this year, it's a surprise. It's really lovely. Now, if you filled in your giving intention form online, like I did, and by the way, it's easy peasy online. If you did it online, then you go to the giving intention table, and they've got a sort of will call system so that you can still get your ticket to go to the gratitude event. If you do fill in your form online and you have any difficulty with that, just contact us. We will make it right. You should get a confirmation email immediately. If you don't get it, let us know and we'll take care of you. Let me see. I think that is about all of it. Next week, we'll talk nonprofits, and I invite you to participate with me in getting the survey completed so we can go about the business of planning the wonderful things at the center that you and I have grown accustomed to expecting. And that is the end of your concise and frank presentation. Let us pray. There is only one life, one mind, the mind and life of creation, the Creator, the all in all. And although words cannot clearly define what it is, we point to it with ideas such as infinite, all-encompassing, everywhere present. We do that in our prayer so that we may expand our own thought and feel our own kinship with all that is, and realize our relationship with that mind that is in us too. And so by means of this prayer today, we are establishing that we are open and available to spiritual guidance and understanding so that we may know ourselves as we truly are, and thereby understand our choices and directions and contribution to this world. We are realizing together, I am an experience and expression of unlimited spiritual potential. And today I am awake to the tremendous creative nature of my thought. I realize I am able to think in such a way as to contribute great, great good all around me. With joyfulness and gratitude, I release this word of prayer into the mind of God, trusting it to deliver to me the pathway to fulfillment, to embodiment of what I have prayed. And together we say, and so it is. I invite you to breathe in with me, sighing. With that breath, we make a transition to the part of our service where we share, which is to us also a spiritual practice. So whether you are placing something in the basket today, or you already did it electronically, or your pattern of giving is once a month, won't you nevertheless take your hand and place it in your heart as a symbol of your contribution and say with me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and prosper. It does great work in the world. And so it is. Ushers, won't you please stand and receive the gift?